Welcome to Depth of Field, a change in perspective. I'm your host, Penny De Los Santos. I'm a photographer, director, storyteller. I have over 20 years of experience in the photography industry. And welcome to my podcast. Today I'm interviewing Hope Hall. There she is. Hope Hall is a very well-known, respected cinematographer, storyteller. I'm just going to go ahead and drop the biggest thing I know about her, and that is she was Obama's personal videographer for 8 years in his presidency. Hope is one of the most inspiring people I've ever met. I'm lucky enough to call her my friend. She's been like an incredible support system for me, and so I wanted you guys to meet her because she's incredible.
It takes two to make a thing go right. There is no way that this friendship would be anything like it is without you.
Oh, that's sweet.
And your incredibleness. So it's we meet in the middle, babe.
We meet in the middle.
We meet in the middle, or I come to you, you come to me, depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
So
it's a good thing.
It's a rubber banding of middleness. But it's a collaboration, and you inspire me.
See what I mean? Okay.
Love this human. I love this human.
I prepped Hope a little bit. I'm basically I have one big question, and you can talk about it as much as you want to or not. But I'm looking for inspiration. I'm looking for creativity. So I'm asking for a time in your creative period, I know you had a whole story before you got to the White House and a whole story after, but I'm most curious about the time when you felt maybe like you weren't where you wanted to be in your career and you were struggling creatively and maybe weren't sure where you wanted to go or what was next. And what was it, what you went through to get through it and the story of it. And, and then of course, kind of like aha moment that did kind of, where you realized I'm exactly where I want to be.
Yeah. And I continue to navigate the oncoming waves, I guess. We were in the ocean recently together. And we were with a younger person who didn't have as much experience in the water as we do. And I said to them, remember to face the wave, right? Because when you turn your back,
I remember you saying that.
Even the calmest of waters, it's just, and the way I heard it as a young person in the ocean is never turn your back on a wave or the wave, but always and never feel very inherently inaccurate as words to me. So what I try to do is shift that around and say, face the wave, right? And life, there are moments of ease and there are moments of supreme difficulty. The waves will keep coming no matter what, whether it's easy or hard, right?
Yeah.
So what I like to say, and one thing I was going to offer just for viewers and listeners, wherever you're at in the moment when you're watching and or listening to this, it may not be the moment to hear any of this, but which is why I made a handout, which I will refer to, and we'll share a link with you.
Yes.
But basically, it's my mindset handout. So whether it's now or deep into the future or anywhere in between, please rely on resources that you have to ease the stress of life. It will keep coming. I am now in the wiser version of my growth and development. And one thing I feel like I'm really coming to accept and even honor is that those waves will keep coming. And it's how we play with them. And we're just learning and growing. We're like plants. We're living beings like all other living beings. We're just learning and growing. until we move into another phase.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things that I thought of when you sent me that question. And really the big one, I think, is the prompt for this mindset handout, which is I was in a situation where, first of all, I never thought I would be. At the time, it was the best job ever. Mm-hmm. I've actually since renamed a more recent job the best job ever. But yes. I just had not seen myself having that kind of experience in my life. And through a sequence of events that will take much longer than half an hour to describe, so I won't belabor it, but it felt like a dream.
Yeah.
And it was my first full-time job. I had always been freelance, which is great, but when you're freelance, like I currently am, there's some freedom in being freelance, because you can say, well, this job is 1 day, this job is 5 days, this job is maybe 5 years, but it has an end. Mm-hmm. This job was my first full-time job, and I was on a team, and you figure it out. It's sort of like in a family or my chosen family. In my life, I've learned there's such beauty in that, because you reverse engineer from, how do I make this hum? Mm-hmm. How do I make this beautiful? Even
as you're like covering the president?
Yeah, and even even when sucky things happen.
Yeah.
So just to get right to the point, a sucky thing was happening every day in that I worked alongside, luckily they were not my boss or supervisor, but there was someone that I worked alongside, like really alongside, who really sucked.
Wasn't a good person, wasn't kind, hard to work with.
Maybe they are.
Yeah.
In other situations. In this situation, I think there were aspects of their personality that it turned on the bullying and at times actually abusive.
Wow, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it really sucked and it really threw me. Like, my name is Hope, and I am an optimist because, like, I can't be anything but an optimist and see the good. And I really struggled because I was in, again, such a dreamy situation, but I was in such new territory that it's one of the few situations where I really do feel clearly now that if I were to go back and do it again, I would do it differently. I spoke out. I spoke to people in higher positions of more power than me, but I could have done more to stop it. I'm not blaming myself in any other way than saying, like any relationship, it takes two.
Yeah.
And I within 6 months, I was like, can I swear on this?
Absolutely.
I was like, I'm fucking out of here.
Yeah.
I can't fucking take
this anymore. It made your workplace pretty bad.
Awful.
Wow.
Really awful. It could have been worse.
Yeah.
I know that. But feelings are feelings no matter what the circumstance.
Sure, absolutely.
And I was so exhausted from the job, which was already, the kind of job that absorbs every moment of your waking life and some of your sleeping life.
I remember seeing you during that time, and when I'd see you, you were just like sleeping. You were exhausted.
I know, I could sleep anywhere. I mean, I am a big sleeper anyway, but and also not being in charge of my own schedule after being autonomous, freelance, and independent, for as long as I can remember, was such a huge shift. And then also working in, it was still social justice, but it wasn't with my people.
Yeah.
I was working alongside people with whom I had almost nothing. It was like being a foreign exchange student. So then I was also learning
the political arena.
Yeah, learning the language, learning how to get to yes, learning how to navigate
Because all of a sudden you're dealing with all these government people.
Yeah.
And protocol.
And also like alpha people.
Yeah.
I'm Ferdinand the peaceful bull. I want to smell the clover and all of a sudden I'm in the arena, the gladiatorial arena, and people are throwing people under the proverbial buses and saying one thing and doing another just to make themselves look better. And so, you know, I was sort of constantly referred to as the nicest person in politics, which sounds lovely, but it also kind of sucks. Like I want to be swimming alongside my kind-hearted, open, playful, flexible, creative friends.
Yeah.
So that's the setting. My point is, and then we'll keep going. I almost left. I almost quit because I didn't know what else I could do. Besides go to the boss, which I knew from observing other somewhat similar situations.
The boss.
The boss.
The boss.
Yeah.
The boss of the U.S.
The boss.
And you didn't want to do that.
I didn't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
Also because I was privy to a lot of situations that might have been similar or at least, and I saw how that was handled and I was like, I don't think even if I went to the boss, it would be effective.
Sure.
The way I want it to be effective.
It sounds tricky.
Here's what I did.
Okay.
I cried. I told everyone that I felt comfortable telling. I really pondered it. I took some time. And then I was like, how do I reverse engineer from showing up every day at this dream fucking job, happy to be there? And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call this situation, not that person, but the situation, my guru. How can I learn about myself? Because I was becoming so justifiably angry, but I was becoming somewhat unrecognizable to myself, which is great. Explore. My whole point is explore the shadow side.
Yeah, don't run away from it. Don't shut it down.
Because
maybe the answers are there.
There's like mist and information and juju in there. So the more we push it away, first of all, the more it's attracted to us, right? So the pull becomes stronger, like any attraction repulsion situation. What if you just go open arms, talk to me, shitty situation, talk to me, lack of inspiration. Let's go.
Yeah.
What is this? Cool. Interesting. I learned about the like angry part of myself. I learned a lot about my inner life.
Wow.
And I learned how to be the person I want to be in any, like in the shittiest situation that version of that moment that I was in.
Sure.
There are a lot harder things to go through.
Wow.
And I think the part of myself that was like, you think this is hard? War is fucking hard. Rape is hard. Like violence, like this is nothing. But the more I said that to myself, the worse I felt about who I was in that situation. And so instead to just really soften, I think it's about softening into it and getting curious and playful. Noticing when your body and your voice get
tense.
Yeah.
What you're triggered by, what you're reacting to.
And then keeping track of it. However, some people use voice memos, some people keep notes, some people keep journal entries. But noticing when you become animated, I think that's the thing. If you feel smothered by a situation, that's the time to relax and listen to the part of you, the moments, those little peak moments when you're like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Get curious.
because those are positive too. That's energy.
Yeah.
That's my very
So that's how you overcame it. You just, you reframed it.
I turned
you became
that
curious
fucked
about
up
it.
situation into my teacher.
Wow.
So.
That's amazing.
And I stayed.
To think about a lot of things.
I stayed for 2 terms.
Wow.
Which most people
stayed
don't.
for 2 terms, and also I left out a major part.
Yeah.
Ended up working with Elizabeth Warren's campaign in 2020.
Oh my gosh. And here's what made that even dreamier. The team that she and her team put together.
You got to put all that. You got to put her whole visual team together.
Oh, no. I just came on. I mean, but
didn't she say, whatever title you want, it's yours?
Yes. But also loving, playful, kind, not perfect. No one is. No one expected that. People fucked up. People did silly, dumb, hurtful things because they were exhausted. It's a campaign. It's really life absorbing.
Yeah.
Right? So people, sleep deprived, nutrient deprived, like dehydrated, exhausted, all of those things. But this team, it's also on this sheet. I like to say it's all about who.
Yeah.
It's who you spend your time alongside, how you spend it together. Doesn't have to be constant or even regular, whatever works in your life, but we have each other and we will take care of each other. And we do things so differently. It's not just additive when we're with someone else. It's exponential, right? It's like bing, bang, bang. It's like, it's more than 2.
Yeah.
It's like, it's difference. It's energy between 2 people or 3 or 4, a group. And so that is one of the things that I'm really loving now about being freelance, which is, also stressful. And
you get to choose who you can work with. You can create that environment that feels positive. Because you've set your life up like this, that you can really surround yourself with the people you want to enjoy and love working with.
I call it creating the conditions. Ever since I was a little teeny tiny kid, I've been moving furniture around and lights in my lived space or a classroom or whatever to create for visual,
yeah.
And it's the same with people.
Yeah,
and
it is.
Animals, living beings, plants. So
true.
keep it like the waves, like keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Surround yourself with people that are of like mind, that are seeking out the same
really
things.
different.
Or really different.
If you find yourself.
But also, I do think there has to be a baseline of
Yeah.
There has to be a baseline of just, we are not trying to prove ourselves here. We are just trying to enjoy our lives and have positive interactions if possible.
Yeah.
Things change, but yeah.
And equanimity.
Equanimity.
So, big wave, small wave, wave full of shit, wave full of blossoms. Right?
Yeah.
Either you jump over the wave or you dive under the wave or you let it crash on you, whatever you decide. Or don't decide because it's suddenly there and you didn't have time to make a decision. Whatever it is, equanimity, playfulness. Oh, how does this set me up for the next wave?
I like that. I'm going to pause for a quick second. Should I check the camera? Or you think we're in a good place?
Check it.
Let me just check it real quick.
Yeah.
Just because the last time it stopped. All right. And we're still
Hi, everybody.
rolling.
Penny's checking the
22
camera.
minutes. We got 22
We've
minutes.
got 22 minutes. Any
right.
questions from the audience?
All right. So
Chili, do you have any questions?
Chili. All right. So I did
Okay.
want to ask you
Yeah.
about like in your career, because I know you had a stint at MTV where you were kind of doing, what was the show you worked on?
Well, a bunch of different things, but the regular one was Unplugged.
Unplugged. So how do you go from Unplugged to working to being like a videographer for the President of the United States?
Yeah. Well,
And was that what you wanted to do? I mean, I'm imagining that just came out of nowhere, but.
Yeah, it did. Except that I've been a very activist-minded, social justice-minded person since I was very small. And I wanted to figure out, creative nonfiction is what I call documentary, but you don't do documentary for the money or the fame or you do it because you have a social justice flag waving in the corner of your bedroom all the time.
Yeah. I used to have that flag in my bedroom, but.
You still do.
A little bit.
I know you do. You do.
A little bit. I mean, I love documentary. It's.
Well, again, I call
it's just hard to make a living.
Yeah, and I call it creative nonfiction for a reason, right? So I love to create the conditions for being excited about doing what I'm doing when, especially, they don't call it work for nothing. It's work.
Yeah.
So when you're going to work, you want to be feel jazzy about it. So I like to have a mix. I'm a wanderer. I'm an observer of life. I like things to be different every day. Part of that is creating a mix of jobs, right? Mm-hmm. So I sort of found the balance between, I was a modern dancer for many years before I got into still photography and then into motion picture. And so I really like working in the performing arts and visual arts. And it just feels to me like the labor of love aspect of the social justice stuff is, if you're going to do that full time, that's for someone that doesn't worry about money.
Yeah.
And also has a different view of the salt and pepper yin yang mix of work. I really like having both. I like working in the cultural realm and mixing that with social justice.
Oh, cool.
And that to me that's more umami.
You feel like you're feeding your soul. You're also feeling creatively fed.
And I feel like they both feed each other and feed it's almost like people always ask, oh, you're a cinematographer. Do you ever edit? And I'm like, I definitely edit because it makes me a much better cinematographer.
Sure, yeah.
Because when I'm editing my own stuff in particular and I'm grumbling at the cinematographer.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what the fuck were you thinking?
Yeah.
What? You had your back to it's happening right behind you, But the other thing is the Obama job in particular gave me that 10,000 hours that I won't, that thing, that idea that, especially a technical thing like what we do.
Wait, what are you saying? It gave you that thing? What do you mean?
Well,
it just practiced you so much.
Until I didn't actually have performance anxiety about the technical aspect of what I was doing. That allowed me to relax in a room and actually be part of the room. A lot of what I treasure most about working in nonfiction is the ethical and relational aspects of what we do and being part of the room rather than this false pretense of, for me, pretending that someone could ever, with a camera, still, or in particular motion picture and microphones, disappear and be a fly on the wall. Not on my watch. Because I call bullshit on that.
Yeah.
there's no such thing as objectivity. There's no such thing as a camera not changing a room. But how do you change it? Do you change it for
The better?
the better?
Or the worse?
Do people kind of like, but the more you can have a relationship with the other people in the room and explain, I'm here for this. This in particular in politics, I would often go early and take the time to explain, I'm not looking for the gotcha moment. Nothing's going to come out that isn't going to get approved within an inch of its life. That was sort of the most straightforward version. But even when I'm filming music, they're already performing. I could pretend that I'm not changing their performance by
being in their face, moving around them.
Of course I'm changing their performance. So unless they're a pathological narcissist, right? They don't like the camera being there, or they're changed. I shouldn't say don't like, but their molecules are rearranged by knowing that potentially other people could see this, potentially millions of, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course it's going to change the room.
Yeah.
And of course I'm half of that relationship. And I find that really interesting. Like, I find that to be, it's sort of like
that's the work.
Facing the wave. Mm-hmm. It's like, all of a sudden, it's all interesting. You gotta like soften a little bit and be there and not bring your own
stuff into it.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is it's about showing up early, creating relationships, creating trust.
Yes.
Collaborating, helping people feel comfortable.
Yeah. Listening.
I mean, gosh, I think being a really good storyteller is all about listening quietly.
I'm listening, Penny. Talk to me.
No,
will you tell me? Or
no. I'm thinking about, you in that space and figuring that out, and I'm relating to it in a big way. Like, that's exactly the same thing, when you're shooting, you always, at least for me, it's like show up early. You're going to be way more successful, and you're also going to be able to see the moment kind of happen before it happens. You can anticipate it a lot better. You can plan, as much as you can plan the unknown. So I know you're not fully out of politics completely. And I also know you're doing other freelance projects.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just ask you, because I do think a lot of the people that will be watching this are, mid-career, maybe early professionals, aspiring, filmmakers, cinematographers, still photographers. And I think, it's a hard field to tap into. It's hard to figure out which way to go. And it's hard to make it happen if you're living in a part of the country that's not as, maybe not a lot of that production work's happening in your town.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying is, what do you have to impart to anybody who might be listening and might be just wanting to just grow in that space? And, what's the Hope Hall? What's the Hope Hall kind of 411 on growing and, getting where you want to be, achieving your dreams? Those are big questions, I know. So no pressure, whatever you say, if you said eat healthy, it'd be great. Or whatever you say is going to be great, so no pressure.
Well, I do love teaching and mentoring, and I'm a big believer in and have really benefited by creating circles of supporters and advisors and mentors around me. I often say this to younger people or people who are starting in our biz and world. Create concentric circles around yourself, or create different circles depending on what part of your life but create support systems and seek out people who make your eyes light up. Mm-hmm. Because again, the waves won't stop coming. That's just part of the rhythm of life. It will get hard. Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren likes to say, choose only the righteous fights, or leftist fights, I like to say. Because no matter what, it will get hard at times. But if you are in a place where you feel like, these are my peeps, this is my thing, you'll be able to
Navigate.
play and navigate. And so I often, seek out and ask for mentorship. Seek out the people who inspire you. And back to that thing about noticing when you get animated, whether it's, whether you call it a positive or a negative emotion, it actually doesn't matter because your body's getting animated. So notice when you get riled up about something and excited about something, follow that.
Yeah.
Like let that be your, your path. The next step on your, I don't really understand why men are still running our world. I continue to feel very pissed off about that. Okay, and so I call it going toward the good. But I also like to say our lives, and that includes our work, are only as good as we feel.
That's so true.
Because no matter what, you could be making widgets in a factory, it's still creative.
Yeah.
Right? And no matter what, you are creating something, whatever your field. And that only comes from our inner lives. It's a direct reflection.
I love this, Hope. I feel like I keep trying to make you talk about like all the work we have to do, and what you're really saying is the person you have to be.
Yes.
And I love that because it's true. If your internal life is not right,
or however it is.
Yeah.
Like, soften may sound like maybe not appealing to some people, so I'm gonna change the language up a little bit. Squish into it.
Okay, squish into it.
Get all like, here I am. Here's what's, sucks. And, to use improv language, I only took one improv class, but I loved it. Yes. And.
Yes, and.
But if you're constantly hardening.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to, not a lot of, the roots aren't going to go deeper if you're
Exactly.
hardening.
Be a plant.
Yeah.
Plants fuck up all the time.
Beautiful.
Right? They go the wrong direction, then they're suddenly like, I keep hitting this. So a year later, the plant is like leaning in the other way, and it takes time, and that's okay. Be where you're at and get jiggy with it. Squishy.
I love it.
Get squishy.
Get squishy with it.
Get squishy
Get a
with
squishy
it.
with it.
Get a squishy with it.
I don't know if I said that right, but
no, it's great.
I love that. I love that, Hope. I'm
Get
trying not to
squishy.
call you Smoky Hall, but it's Hope Hall. Smoky's her nickname for me. All right, guys, thank you so much. Hope, thanks for the conversation.
Penny.
I feel like it was really inspiring, and I feel like I learned something.
Well,
which is really the bonus. I mean, obviously, I know other people are going to learn something, but I really feel like, I too am always searching for creativity. And what I realize in talking with you right now is that, creativity is really about your interior world. And it's really how healthy that is. I mean, if that's really indicative of oftentimes where your creativity is and where your inspiration is.
and it goes in waves.
Yeah.
Right? So there are times in our lives, again, if we get squishy and soft and curious and playful with it, or not if that's the approach, we know change is the only constant. We know there are going to be times when we are just fired up and ready to go.
Yeah.
Right? But denying, pushing away, hardening, trying to be some place where we're not, trying to be someone that we are currently not. Totally understandable. Feelings are feelings. We can feel really frustrated and uninspired and not creative and lost. Cool.
But it's going to change.
And
it's going to change.
Yes, and we're lost.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's okay.
Hey.
It's okay. Yeah. Thank you, Hope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think viewers and listeners have so much to learn from you, Penny De Los
sweet.
Santos.
Thank you.
No, it's an honor. Yes, and it's an honor.
Yes, and it's an honor. Thank you, Hope Hall.
Okay, and we're going to include a link to this mindset handout.
Yes, for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to include a link to this mindset handout that Hope has brought with her to this conversation. I'm also going to thank Hope Hall again for being a guest on Depth of Field.
Isn't it such a great name?
Depth of Field.
It's like...
with me, Penny De Los Santos, your host. Thank you, Hope. I knew you'd be amazing, and I feel like I got something out of this. So, thank you.